What if Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan joined the Separatists? Let's explore the depths of this scenario in the video.
The truth.
The truth. What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
No, that's not possible. The Jedi would be aware of it.
The dark side of the Force has clouded their vision, my friend. Hundreds of senators are now under the influence of a Sith Lord called Darth Sidious.
I don't believe you.
The Viceroy of the Trade Federation was once in league with this Darth Sidious. But he was betrayed 10 years ago by the Dark Lord. He came to me for help. He told me everything. You must join me, Obi-Wan. And together, we will destroy the Sith.
Obi-Wan stares at Dooku, not believing the things he's hearing. He knows that Qui-Gon always had different ideas of how the Jedi should do things, but he never realized just where he got that. Obi-Wan didn't always understand what his master was thinking, and half the time he seemed like he was just making things up as he went along, but trusted his judgment. As he looks at Dooku, he feels something familiar.
Very well. I will join you.
Good. Now, about Skywalker and the Senator.
Dooku escorts Obi-Wan towards their prison, where he's given a private audience with them. He quickly explains everything he's heard from Count Dooku, including the hidden Sith Lord.
That's impossible, Master Kenobi.
Today has been a day of impossibilities, Senator.
Even so, you can't seriously trust this man.
I'm not sure, Anakin. What he says about the Senate, its corruption would make a lot more sense.
The best lies are covered with a grain of truth.
Perhaps. But we should also consider the possibility he is sincere. Whatever the answer, it is in our best interest to cooperate.
The doors suddenly open, and Count Dooku appears, warning them that they must leave. He's received information that the Jedi are launching a strike force to try and rescue them, so they must get off-world. The Count will remain to organize the defenses, but regroup with them in the Outer Rim. Meanwhile, the Battle of Geonosis is a disaster for the Jedi. Not only are their intended rescue targets not there, but the team suffers heavy losses, and only the arrival of the clone army saves them, though the CIS fleet escapes and joins Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme. The blow the Jedi suffered is only made worse when it's revealed the trio have defected to the CIS. Padme's betrayal is particularly stinging, as she is from Naboo, Palpatine's home planet. The three quickly join the burgeoning separatist movement. Obi-Wan acts as a negotiator to win different systems and planets to the CIS cause. Meanwhile, Padme serves in the Parliament alongside Mina Bonteri in the moderate faction which favors ending this war. Among her policies is improving the conditions of conquered worlds, treating them as allies instead of conquests. Lastly, Anakin becomes the general of the droid army. Thanks to his greater understanding of droids, he knows how to make efficient use of them, even modifying droids to serve different purposes and improving maintenance. His success catches Dooku's attention, who begins guiding him in the ways of the Force. Although Obi-Wan remains his master, and the Count has his student in Ventress, he teaches Anakin Force techniques to help him control his anger and emotions. Rather than teaching Anakin to suppress his emotions, he shows Anakin how to unleash them in healthy ways on the battlefield. One benefit to joining the CIS is that Anakin does not need to hide his marriage with Padme, and the two are allowed to live a comfortable life on Sereno. This also helps Anakin manage his emotions. The Count also teaches him discipline and control, slowly winning Anakin over and ensuring he does not go wild with power, but learns to control himself. With the trio by his side, the CIS is in much better shape as they become heroes across the galaxy for their bravery, intelligence, and understanding. While Grievous and Ventress are feared, Obi-Wan and Anakin are respected and treat captured worlds well. Their defection comes off less as them falling to the dark side, but the Jedi Order failing them. Even among the Jedi, many experienced masters who've served alongside Obi-Wan begin to wonder why he would defect and question the Jedi Order. One person who is not pleased by this is Palpatine. With Anakin in the CIS, he loses his opportunity to corrupt him. The Chancellor sees this as a betrayal from his apprentice, who stole the Chosen One from underneath him. While the war rages on, he begins plotting ways to exact revenge. His opportunities are scarce as Dooku takes every precaution. Palpatine's chance comes in the form of Dooku's apprentice, Ventress. While the Count continues to train her, she feels immense jealousy of Anakin, who takes her master's attention. He secretly plants a holodisc for Ventress to find.
Greetings, young one. I have been observing your career with great interest, but it has come to my attention that Dooku has been underutilizing you.
Ventress immediately drops to her knees and bows before the Sith Lord.
Master Sidious, I'm surprised to hear from you. Does my master know about this?
No, and I would rather keep it from him. I have a proposition for you, one that could elevate you to a position of great power.
And why would you offer me such a thing?
Because I see potential in you, and I know of your frustrations with Count Dooku. It seems he has found a new favorite and neglects your training.
Ventress's expression hardens at the mention of her master. The simmering resentment is evident.
And what do you propose?
If he will not utilize your skills, then I shall take you on as my apprentice. But I have a task for you.
What will you have me do?
When Ventress heads out to the battle once again, things seem to be normal as her fighter flies ahead to attack the Republic ships. She manages to throw their fleet into chaos, but then something happens to her fighter. It begins to malfunction from the damage it sustained and eventually bursts into flames, leaving nothing behind. Soon after, the CIS and Republic fleets retreat, believing that Ventress was lost. Little do they know that she secretly escaped in a life pod and disappears into the shadows. Meanwhile, this allows Dooku to name Anakin as his apprentice. Obi-Wan and Padme act as his advisors. Although both agree on the need to stop Palpatine, as they watch the destruction, their support for the war wanes, and both urge the CIS to pursue a diplomatic solution. They hope to combine resources with the Jedi to overthrow the Chancellor. They eventually manage to convince Dooku to hold peace talks on Mandalore to try and negotiate a ceasefire. Weeks later, the throne room of Mandalore fills with delegates from the CIS and the Republic. Standing beside Padme is Obi-Wan, who acts as her advisor and bodyguard. The other CIS leaders sit on one side. On the other are Bail Organa and the Republic delegation. At first, talks seem productive, and both sides find common ground, agreeing to try and de-escalate the war. For a while, they might be able to walk away with a deal. But as they talk, a shadowy figure slips into the palace. She sneaks past the guards as she holds a thermal detonator in hand. Obi-Wan winces and feels a disturbance in the Force. He rubs his temple and excuses himself to try and find the threat. A few minutes after he departs, an explosion rocks the palace, throwing the senators off their feet. Duchess Satine orders the senators to evacuate, but as they hurry towards the door, it opens up and reveals Ventress. She smiles and readies her lightsaber. The guards in the room all open fire on her, but Ventress leaps into the air and shoves them back with the Force. Looking around, Ventress begins to unleash a flurry of attacks at the Republic senators, cutting them down without a second thought. Darth Sidious's plan was simple: have Ventress attack the peace talks, and let the two sides blame each other for it. As she was known as Dooku's apprentice, the Republic would blame the CIS. Throughout the chase, she spots Padme and smiles. The Sith Lord had also instructed her to deal with a few moderate CIS leaders too. She readies her lightsabers and pulls back into a thrust. But at the last second, Mina Bonteri pushes her out of the way, taking the blow for herself. Padme screams, but she doesn't have time to dwell, as Ventress pulls her lightsaber out and prepares to attack once again. But a shape moves between them, and Obi-Wan readies his lightsaber.
Out of my way.
You certainly know how to make an entrance, Ventress. But I don't think this is how you greet allies.
I see no allies. Only traitors in this room.
Obi-Wan steps back and tries to stab at her shoulder, but Ventress spins aside and begins to dance towards him, her lightsabers whirling in the air gracefully. The Jedi Master tries to block those attacks as Ventress pushes him back. However, she can't break through his defenses, which continue to frustrate her. With a sudden snarl, she shoves Obi-Wan against the wall and tries to take another stab at him. Obi-Wan barely rolls aside to avoid her slashes, but Ventress keeps him cornered. With another slice, she manages to disarm and prepares to finish him off. But another Jedi emerges from the room and kicks Ventress aside. Mace Windu glares at the assassin.
Need help, old friend?
Master Windu, your timing is perfect.
He helps Obi-Wan up as Ventress rises to her feet and readies her lightsabers. She throws herself at the two of them, her lightsabers flashing across every direction as she tries to overwhelm them with the sheer power. But rather than falter, both masters parry each attack, letting her rage run its course. Mace feels the darkness raging across the room from Ventress and drinks it in. He allows it to flow through him, then lets it out. With a powerful force push, he sends Ventress flying back against the throne, where she slumps to the ground.
You sense the darkness too?
Yes. When I first sensed it, I thought it was you, but I never found the darkness in you. You're still a Jedi.
Obi-Wan smiles, and the two survey the bodies of the senators, both Republic and CIS.
Who were her targets?
Peace. Now we have senators to attend to. Take Ventress and figure out what she knows.
You're allowing me to take her?
She was your assassin before. I believe you're better qualified to figure out what she knows.
As they gather the surviving senators and evacuate Mandalore, the two sides are in uproar and out for blood. With so many diplomats dead from both sides, there was a call for a renewed offensive. Padme tries her best to calm the CIS leadership, but she is now a minority, especially as many of her colleagues are now dead. Meanwhile, Dooku and Anakin throw themselves into interrogating Ventress. The two spend long hours searching her mind for answers, or using the Force to coax them out of her. Although she never talks, the weeks of torture slowly break her defenses, until she reveals that she was sent by Darth Sidious. Meanwhile, the Republic is now throwing its full support behind the war. Palpatine is happy to accept the cries of war and begins organizing a major defensive. While the CIS expects this in the front lines, they are not expecting an attack on Cyrano. Being so far from the front, no one expects the Republic to sneak a large force in, but using knowledge from the Nexus route, the Republic manages to sneak a large fleet to attack the Separatist core territories in an all-out offensive. This throws them on the back foot as Anakin and Dooku rush to organize their defenses. With the knowledge they got from Ventress, they realize that Palpatine is responsible for these attacks. The only question becomes, what can they do to stop him? Obi-Wan suggests contacting Mace and asking for help and explaining everything that he's learned from Ventress. To their surprise, the Jedi Master is open to helping them, as he's begun to have his doubts about Palpatine after seeing how much power he's amassed. He provides them with the coordinates for the Nexus route and security codes to sneak through the Republic defenses there. He says that a small ship can sneak through without attracting any attention. With this information, the CIS decides to send Obi-Wan, Dooku, and Anakin to deal with Palpatine, while Grievous and Padme stay and hold the Republic back as long as they can. Along with the three Jedi, they also take Ventress, whose confession they can use. Thankfully, the information Mace gives them is accurate, and no ship stops them as they travel. They can pose as travelers and merchants. When they reach the designated landing pad on Coruscant, they find Mace waiting for them, alongside a handful of trusted Jedi. They take Ventress into custody and make their way to the Senate building. As they travel, Obi-Wan looks over at Mace.
Master, if I may ask, why did you trust us?
When you left, I, like many others, thought you had fallen just as Dooku. I blamed Anakin for his recklessness. I blamed Dooku for his pride. I would have blamed you for your stubbornness and Qui-Gon for being a bad influence. But you were all good men, despite everything. If the Jedi were able to turn all of you away, It made me think that perhaps we were the ones in need of change.
The rest of the party is speechless. None of the Jedi say anything, and the CIS leaders all bow their heads, grateful for this opportunity. They arrive just in time as Palpatine is giving a speech to the Senate.
Chancellor, we have business to discuss,
Mace announces as he leaps onto a repulsor pod. Palpatine's eyes widen in surprise, but he tries to keep his cool and smiles.
Master Windu, we are in the middle of a Senate hearing. Surely this matter can wait.
I'm afraid it cannot. We have caught the assassin behind the recent attack on Mandalore, Asajj Ventress.
Many senators gasp, while others growl and pound their fists on the table. Palpatine sees this and nods.
Excellent work. I have complete faith that the Jedi will be able to learn who hired her.
We already have a confession, and she provided the most interesting story.
Another repulsor lift floats forward, and the Senate's anger turns to shock as they see Anakin, Dooku, and Obi-Wan escorted by a group of Jedi. In the middle of them is Ventress, who looks up at Palpatine.
Yes, I told you everything. The man who hired me wasn't the CIS leadership. It was Chancellor Palpatine. He said that it was my test to prove if I was worthy of becoming his apprentice, because the Chancellor is a Sith Lord.
I can confirm this too, for he is my master as well. I have years of recordings to back this up.
Lies. All of these are lies. Can't you see that this traitor is trying to turn us against each other with these accusations?
Be that as it may, the protocol is clear. Until we can determine the truth of these claims, I recommend the Chancellor be stripped of his position.
The impromptu vote receives much support from the Senate, with most voting in favor. Mace takes the opportunity to approach the Chancellor's platform with some binders. Before he can clamp them down, Palpatine suddenly kicks them from his hand and thrusts his hand out, letting forks of lightning crackle from his fingertips. Mace reacts quickly and blocks the attack, but Palpatine takes the opportunity to sweep his leg and sends him stumbling onto the repulsor lift. He ignites his lightsaber and slashes the stabilizers, sending it crashing down. Anakin, Dooku, and Obi-Wan catch Mace with the Force and lift him back up, but suddenly Palpatine leaps upon their lift and readies his lightsaber. The Jedi with them all ignite their lightsabers, but the Chancellor lets out an ear-splitting shriek and rushes at them. The Force shriek causes them to hesitate for a moment, allowing Palpatine to cut them down. Only Dooku and Anakin can resist and protect Obi-Wan, as Palpatine tries to stab him. The two push his lightsaber back and go on the offensive. Their blows come from opposite sides, forcing Palpatine to defend and divide his attention. While they're distracted, Ventress takes the opportunity to leap off as she runs away, mixing into the crowd of terrified senators who hurry out. As Obi-Wan pulls Mace back onto the platform, Palpatine leaps past them onto the stationary repulsor lift.
Did you think you can stop me? This is only a setback. I have not been officially voted out, meaning I can still order the clones to kill the Jedi.
He lifts two other repulsor lifts from their stands and hurls them at the Jedi. It crashes into their floating repulsor lift and sends the wreckage tumbling to the ground. The Jedi leap off at the last second, Mace and Dooku landing on one side and Anakin and Obi-Wan on the other. The two older masters are the first to come at him. They leap from lift to lift as they rush at him. Palpatine waits for Dooku to leap down, then shoves him aside and rushes at Mace. His crimson blade is a blur as he deflects their strikes, moving with inhuman speed. He manages to unbalance Mace, but before he can press his advantage, Obi-Wan and Anakin come from behind. They coordinate their attacks, forcing Palpatine to spin around and meet them, allowing Dooku and Mace to get up. The four Jedi move in perfect harmony, their blades creating a deadly web of light. Palpatine snarls as the lightsabers cage him in, giving him no room to maneuver. He unleashes a torrent of Force lightning at the four of them, but they all raise their lightsabers simultaneously and defend against his attack. Realizing it is hopeless, he aims his next burst of lightning at the platform they're standing on, shorting out its circuits and sending it tumbling off the floor. The Jedi scream as they bounce against the other repulsor lifts, but Palpatine leaps off and lands at the central podium. He stops the falling platform and sends it rolling back up at the Jedi, aiming at Dooku. He throws it back at him and nearly crushes him, but Obi-Wan manages to push him off out of the way at the last second. He turns to Mace, who is trying to avoid his next attacks, allowing Anakin to sneak in from behind. His lightsaber moves swiftly, raining blows on Palpatine. Even with the Chancellor's speed, he can't keep up with Anakin, who blocks every attack as they circle the podium. Then Mace and Dooku leap onto the raised platform, attacking Palpatine from both sides. Obi-Wan follows closely behind, their lightsabers blurring together and weakening Palpatine's defenses. As they close in on him, Palpatine unleashes a shockwave of force energy, sending them tumbling back. All of them but Anakin, who retains his footing. He feels the dark energy wash over him, nearly overwhelming him, but then recalls the lessons Dooku gave him and takes a deep breath, steadying his breath and not letting those powers overwhelm him. As the others stumble back, he steps forward, riding the wave of the Force, and raises his lightsaber. Palpatine can only watch in surprise before Anakin's lightsaber cuts through him and sends his lifeless body tumbling to the floor. The four Jedi stand in a circle around the crumpled Sith Lord, a slow look of calm realization spreading between them. The war is over. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.